With what seems like a never-ending streams of games being released on the PlayStation 5, it's not realistic to be able to play all the good ones. Plenty of games slip through the cracks because maybe they had a good idea, but it wasn't executed well enough the first time around. Franchises like Assassin's Creed and Uncharted really found their footing after getting a sequel to iron out the kinks, and there are a multitude of games right now that deserve a similar treatment. Hey everyone, welcome to Play, Rank, Share, the show where I play the marquee PlayStation 5 titles, make ever-evolving rankings of the best PlayStation 5 games, and share my opinions with you. My name is Tyrus, and this episode is my list of 10 underrated PS5 games that deserve a sequel. Make sure to leave a comment below letting me know which PS5 game you want a sequel for, and with that out of the way, let's jump in. Unfortunately, it looks like the Callisto Protocol has become a commercial bomb, which frankly sucks because I thought there were some very neat ideas incubated within the game. It's been a while since a new premier AAA horror franchise was established, and if revisited, I think the Callisto Protocol could be a franchise that holds its weight against some of the best. There's some truly scary moments within this game, and I just think the game mechanics need a little refining and there could be something special here. The world of Callisto is bleak and disturbing, even if the dodge animation and sequence is so annoying, and the ending of this first game sets up a sequel nicely. With reported soft sales for the Callisto Protocol, I fear that this is the end of the franchise, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed in the meantime. As you'll see throughout this list, I desperately miss the way games were made during the PS3 era, where you could tell a tight 8 to 12 hour story, moving from various combat encounters, and continually introducing new abilities to power up the main character. With that said, I think Evil West hits on many of these components, even if it stumbles in other regards. Fighting off the hidden vampire revolution in the Old West, I enjoyed using rudimentary guns and steampunk-esque electrical abilities to take down various supernatural creatures. What I didn't like about Evil West is that it had a rather limited set of enemies to encounter, and the difficulty scaled just by simply introducing more enemies on screen to fight as time went on, which made the game less enjoyable for me as I hit the second half of it. But the potential is there, and if given a sequel, I think Evil West could truly create a special experience. Sony has been quietly courting Chinese developers to the PlayStation ecosystem through the PlayStation China Hero Project. One early game born from this initiative is Forged in Shadow Torch, more commonly known as F.I.S.T. This Metroidvania-style game felt like a breath of fresh air when I first played it in 2021, as high-quality games of this genre don't come out much anymore, and they especially don't come to PlayStation when they do. F.I.S.T. does a great job letting you explore the world of Torch City and unlock new routes and destinations as you flesh out your arsenal of weapons and abilities. My main holdback for F.I.S.T. was a brutal difficulty spike at the end of the game. I was basically hitting my head against the wall, getting stuck on every boss in the endgame. A sequel that smooths this difficulty curve to create a more enjoyable game, and something that could potentially appeal to many, many PlayStation fans. If I'm talking about underrated games on the PS5, you know I have to bring up Guardians of the Galaxy. It has been reported that Guardians of the Galaxy undersold per Square Enix's expectations, and it led to Square selling the developer Eidos Montreal to other publisher Embracer Group. I think bad marketing really ruined the potential of this game, in addition to the absolute failure of the Avengers game that came before it. Guardians of the Galaxy is a funny but heartfelt narrative adventure that does a good job of blending the persona of the characters established in the movies with a more comic book-like flair. With the developers being sold, I'm sure this franchise is dead in the water now, but I think that's a shame. An awesome story was slowed down by gameplay mechanics that weren't as stellar, but getting a sequel would have really refined this experience and created a special PS5 game. For reasons unknown to me, publisher Ubisoft decided to put out 3 expansive open-world games right on top of each other in the fall of 2020. I think due to this, Immortals Fenyx Rising really got lost in the shuffle when it presented a really novel idea. Immortals is brighter and more lighthearted than most open-world games, and tells a funny story involving Greek gods and the feuds between them. The story's presented like a storybook, and I personally enjoyed unlocking stronger abilities inspired by the powers of the gods. I think if Immortals got a sequel, it would thrive if released during a quieter time period. It's an absolute shame this was overshadowed by fellow Ubisoft games Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed Valhalla when it came out, because honestly, I think Immortals Fenyx Rising was better than both of them. It's been reported that a sequel is in the works, but with Ubisoft canceling games left and right lately, I fear it won't see the light of day. In the modern video game era, I feel like many games just take themselves too seriously. That's why I love Maneater, a game that is thoroughly goofy as you play as a shark who seeks revenge for the death of its mother. Unapologetically silly throughout its entire campaign, Maneater is an open-world RPG where you must devour both sea creatures and humans alike to power yourself up to overtake commercial fishermen in your area. The story of Maneater is told through the lens of a reality TV show, giving you insight into what the antagonists are getting themselves into while you're beefing yourself up. This concept is so silly and so out of left field, I think it would be a shame if developer Tripwire Interactive didn't revisit the concept again. Maybe in a sequel, our favorite bull shark to take on a larger world and fight to save endangered shark populations. Who knows, but I want to see it. The Pathless should have sold like hotcakes during the launch of the PlayStation 5. There wasn't much to play, and this stylized, fast-paced action game was fun with an interesting world to explore. Sadly, Demon's Souls, Assassin's Creed, and Spider-Man Miles Morales took all the attention in the opening months of the console's lifecycle. The Pathless is just coming to other consoles, so hopefully the game becoming widely available will help it find an audience that appreciates the kinetic movement around this world. The open-ended nature of the story could set up many possibilities for new journeys for our protagonist, the Hunter, to set out on. Publisher Annapurna Interactive doesn't really create sequels often, but I think the Pathless with a little more polish could be an indie darling waiting to happen. I think PlayStation's onto something with the release of Sackboy: A Big Adventure, taking away the user-generated content of the Little Big Planet franchise and instead making a solid 3D platformer with a former mascot for the brand. 3D platformers are my favorite genre, and A Big Adventure was the perfect type of launch title to make sure there is a solid, family-friendly game ready with the PS5. This game's a blast to play in co-op, with some levels designed only for multiple players. I think it would benefit PlayStation Studios to make sure they have a stream of family-friendly games ready to play on the PS5, which is what makes me think that a sequel to Sackboy: A Big Adventure is a no-brainer. I never heard of Square Enix's Valkyrie franchise when they debuted the trailer for Valkyrie Elysium, but now I'm hooked. An action RPG, Valkyrie Elysium is a budget title, but still has fun gameplay mechanics and an intriguing story involving Ragnarok and shaping the world we want to live in. What I liked about Elysium was its fun take on Norse mythology, leaving gray area on who were the good guys and who could be trusted. There is clearly a group of hardcore fans who really love this series, and giving the sequel a bigger budget to help improve visuals and catch the eyes of new gamers. The fun setting of this game is too good to have it go away forever, and I hope that Square Enix is cooking up ideas to create a new experience in the world. With simulation racing games becoming so popular, I'm honestly shocked that the arcade racer doesn't get more love. Regardless, back in 2021, I spent a good chunk of the year being obsessed with Wreckfest, a demolition derby racing game. What eventually caused me to stop playing is that the online component didn't have enough human players to populate races, but I think a sequel is worth visiting here. I found the most fun to be had was racing on hectic maps where you couldn't avoid colliding into your opponents even if you tried. If a Wreckfest 2 focused on demolition races and how fun and chaotic they could be, I think it could carve out a niche for a fun and different online racing game option. It'll be fun to revisit this list and see which games got sequels, but for now, that has been this episode of Play Rank Share. Remember to leave a comment telling me which PS5 game you want a sequel for, and subscribe to the channel to know when future episodes are released. I recently put out a video of my favorite narrative-driven PS5 games, so check that out if you're interested, and until next time, don't stop sharing.